Stuff on the air.
You,
Whoa.
We're live.
Oops. Hello, everyone.
Matt,
I didn't do that.
I did not do that either.
My bad. I'm just excited. So
I'll do it next
welcome
time.
back to the Splitting Hairs podcast presented by Jackrabbit Illustrated. Chad, Dallas, and Matt are with you tonight. In preseason form, apparently.
We need an improvement week, Matt.
Yeah, it's improvement week. So
Is it an improvement
anyways,
Fortnite? Someone
It is.
pointed out?
Oh God, that made me so happy. Somebody on Twitter pointed out that this is actually an improvement Fortnite, and
Yes.
just the nerd in me got so happy.
yes, wonderful. Oh
Very
gosh,
accurate.
I love people.
So
All
loving
right.
stats like that. Go ahead, Matt, with the read. I'm sorry.
No, you go ahead, Chad.
When was the last time we won a conference outright? Anybody know?
The Great West.
Yeah, right. 2007. Who
Seven.
did we beat to
2007.
do that?
Cool.
Do you remember who we beat?
And DSU.
Right. Who was undefeated at the time, right?
Yeah,
So-
undefeated and going to a
Yeah,
bowl
yeah.
game and stuff. Yeah.
That's pretty cool. I
Yeah.
thought it was noteworthy.
No, I love it. All right. Oh, geez. Dallas, people are already loving the hair, man.
I'm not
Look
wearing a
at
hat
that
today.
hair,
I didn't have
Dallas.
one on earlier.
It's funny because that's a comment I made too, Brennan. That's the reason I had to catch
Usually
what
throw
hat
on. I'm
was
not
in
even
my
wearing Jack's
closet
gear. I
here.
got my hockey dad stuff on, and
All right. Let's get to this read. So want to say thanks to our title sponsors, Drake's Place and Cottonwood Coffee. Drake's up there in Baldwin, South Dakota. Chad, I know you stopped in there 2 weeks ago now. It'll be almost 2 weeks, and got some pizzas, some half-baked pizzas, and finished them at home. How were they?
Well, they were zero baked pizzas, but
Zero baked.
they were fantastic. Other than I unfortunately had a incident with the state car where one of them kind of ended crunched up. Oops, hit my mic. Because it slid off the top of the other ones when I took a corner, maybe a little too fast. But we straightened that dough back out, and it was still really good. You know, we had fantastic pizzas actually. My wife's like, so when are you going to Baudo again to get more pizza?
Hey, there we go. That's what we should do. We should have Drake's make up a bunch of pizzas, bring them to the December 3rd game, and sell them right there. Huh? These no-bake pizzas? That's an idea. Just to get some of Drake's to the people that if they can't make it up to Bowdle. So
I like it. You have to pass it by Robert, but
yeah, there we go. All right. Well, thanks, Robert. Thanks, Drake's, for your support and all the delicious food you put out into the universe. We appreciate it. Cottonwood Coffee. I know we had some folks that stopped in and had Cottonwood at the Bistro, Cottonwood Breakfast on Saturday morning before the game. My buddy Keldon Wickham was there, and he tweeted at us and let us know that he was there getting some breakfast. So thank you, Cottonwood, for your breakfast and your support here. I know I just picked up some more Cottonwood beans at Walmart this weekend. They're just some of the best coffee around, my personal favorite. And if you don't live in Brookings, to get the Cottonwood coffee fresh, or Walmart in Minnesota, you can order it online with code JI22 for 10% off your order. As Brendan says, some exclusions may apply. So with that, thank you, Drakes. Thank you, Cottonwood. All right. Oh, Ryan, we look into grilling some at Tailgate. Perfect.
I was going to ask that. How thick are we talking? Because grilled pizza is brilliant if done properly, but it's real tough depending on what the dough's like. I spent like 12 years of my life in pizza, so I know a thing or two about it.
It was a really fresh dough. I can tell you that.
Okay.
And it was on the thinner side of medium thick, if that makes sense.
That
So not
actually
a thin
makes
crust,
perfect
but-
sense.
Okay.
Yep. Take pre-orders. That way he isn't taking as much risk. That's an idea, Chad. Thank you, Chad.
That's a business-minded folks on tonight. I like
Yes, no kidding. And thank you to the 45 of you that are with us right now. You're choosing to be here and not in Yellowstone, which you could DVR anyways. So thanks for watching with us, and you can skip the commercials later. So Jordan
Everybody
Fink,
wins.
though, wants to get down to business and talk ball right away. So Jordan, thanks for being here with us tonight. He says 100 total yards allowed. Nothing else really needs to be added to that statement. So can we be done now, Jordan? Is that
Let's
show's
just
over?
point out
Nothing
how
else.
amazing
Let's
that
go.
Let's point out how amazing that statistic is. That's total. Not just rushing, not just passing, total. That's pretty stellar. And if you looked at our first half wasn't the best half of the year for us. We talked about this a little beforehand, but we ran 44 plays to their 15.
Yep.
So it was better than it looked like.
Yeah.
That's really surprising. I don't think I would have guessed that. But there was a lot, honestly, as we got from the first half into the second half that really kind of caught me off guard with how that game shaped up.
Yeah. Yeah. It just, Illinois State, we knew this coming in. Their offense hasn't found an identity yet, hasn't really found any footing yet. Their starting quarterback being out. Rittenhouse, though, that scramble ability that he has, he can be dangerous down the road if he can develop as a passer. We'll see. It feels like Illinois State, though, is always young at quarterback, doesn't it? Like they converted last year's starter Jackson Waring to a tight end. Did you guys know that?
No, I didn't.
No.
Yeah, so Jackson Waring started for him last year, and he was the emergency quarterback now on Saturday, but he's been practicing at tight end for all of this year. Wild. Like they're always young at quarterback. So,
well, I mean, you brought up the defense though. That was a very good defense. Stig brought it up. If anybody hasn't watched Stig's post game presser, check it out. They're always pretty good. What is
Number
this?
5? Number 5. That's all.
Zeke Vanderbilt.
Oh yes, no, you're right. I was that is number 5. I was Matt before you brought him up in Rants and Raves, which also if you've not read Rants and Raves, go to jackrabbitillustrated.com. Go and read that. Some great work. I don't think we do a good enough job plugging some of that stuff, but great breakdown. I was all prepared to come in, guns blazing, just to rave about Zeke Vandenbroek after that game. What a great football player. And I know this is not an ISU Red podcast, but man, he was so fun to watch. Mm-hmm. I mean, that guy's going to do some stuff on Sundays. God, he was good.
You'd think, right?
Yeah.
Like he's big, he's fast.
Well, and he plays, and now we need to spend time breaking this down, but he plays a position that lends well to getting yourself onto a roster. I mean, that dude could be like an all-pro caliber special teams player for a lot of years, right? He's the size, the speed, the position he plays, all that stuff. But anyway, like he was better than I thought. I watched a little tape on them prior. Man, was he good. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I thought one thing. Josh Hoffman's talking about Brock Spack here in the comments.
Sorry.
But it really his Spack and Stig's relationship also. I didn't realize they were as close as they are until this week, hearing Stig talk about him.
Yeah, it really
and then
made it sound
the
like
game, like in Spack's interview, Dallas, you posted Stig's interview, and my YouTube rolled into Spack's automatically and stuff this morning when I was watching, and he was just so complimentary of SDSU, of our team, of Stig. Like you can tell there is a genuine caring relationship there between the two. So that was kind of cool. I just wanted to say that. I don't know. Speck gets a lot of heat from a lot of folks because of the spring season and Illinois State kind of quitting, or not kind of, they just stopped their season because they're out of bodies. They did quit. But it just, I don't know. I think he's a good dude. I like Spack. So yeah, I wanted to say that.
Shout out to Brennan. This is like his birthday today, right?
Is it his actual birthday today?
Oh, is it
I think so.
Or is it
Brendan,
Dallas's birthday
or Ariel?
today?
Yeah, then we got to celebrate mine if it is.
Yeah.
I saw Ariel too.
We'll
Will you
shoot
guys
you with
please-
silly string. Did you see the pictures?
No, I didn't.
Maybe at playoffs.
Yeah.
Hey, I want to talk quick about just the offensive adjustments that were made. So all
Yes.
season long, we've talked about Zach. We haven't complained about play calling too much at all. Really, it hasn't really stuck out for a whole game. The first few drives, it felt like we were really just trying to hammer the run. Illinois State was creeping 8, sometimes 9 guys up in the box. Their safeties were sucked up, and Zach adjusted, quit running the ball on first down, and took those shot plays. And man, that loosened everything up. Zach is a good play caller, guys.
He is a
good
elite play
player.
caller. The season he's having, I'm worried we're not going to get to keep him too long. Based on, he's one of the best in the country. He's so good at his job. And Stig called that out in that post-game presser, talking about a lot of times you have your script, it works, you prep all week. This time the script did nothing. Yeah. It didn't work. And guess what? We adjusted and did as well as we did. And we've talked about this before, how great this team is in the third quarter. And this is a very simplistic way to look at it. But if you win the third quarter, your coaches are winning.
Indeed. Yeah. One thing I want to talk quick about, and Chad, we brought it up just a little bit before pre-show. I'm a little concerned offensive line wise right now.
Yeah.
2 straight games where we've still cranked out the yards, 150 plus yards or right around 150 on the ground somehow, but it hasn't been pretty at all.
4 sacks, that doesn't bode too well.
Yeah, I'm concerned about center and right tackle at this point is where my concerns are at. And I'm a little nervous if we get into a game where there's just a nasty nose guard with Gus and a speed edge like we saw yesterday with Vanderbaugh on O'Brien. So
if somebody identifies what they perceive to be a weakness in the line and work at it, they may not even be the weakest players on the line, or they may not be weak, or whatever you want to call it. Like, they may not be the problem, but if that's where everybody's picking to go, then you just got to be prepared for that. I don't know how else to say it. I'm trying to support those guys because it isn't. Yeah. If people are coming at them, that's just where everyone is deciding to go at, and sometimes it's going to crack. So I've got my concerns too, guys.
Yeah, it jumps off tape if you look at that first half a bit. I didn't get a chance to look at the second half. It seemed they shorted up, but yeah, the offensive line as a whole struggled the first quarter for sure. Mm-hmm. It wasn't just the 2 positions that you alluded to. It was even our quote unquote stars on the offensive line struggled a bit, and I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, and we know those big boys of Illinois State, that Noah Hickox, the transfer from Minnesota, Jason Luan, the end. Those are good players. They are big bodies as well. And they attacked from every level. They sent backers, they sent safeties, blitzing all over the place. And that's why we got into that shot play passing game. So it's give and take.
Number 91, I can't remember his name on the line. He was really good too. So
I mean, that was a great defense. And keep in mind, I'm going to pull up Ron Lonnie's comment. You're going to have a target on your back when you're number 1. You get everybody's best game.
True.
1, that was a great defense. 2, let's keep in mind, we're I don't even call it being critical. We're trying to point to areas of concern on a team that is undefeated in our division that we want to win a national championship. So just want to make sure that we're super clear on that.
We're being hypercritical, right? Yeah.
And we have nothing to talk about if we just came on and said everything was perfect and we'd be done. So that's not fun. Got to find some sort of controversy here.
Yeah.
But no, I agreed. Hey, can I call back to actually pregame for a second?
Yeah.
We missed our normal start of the pod banter here. I call my dad Charlie Clarksine on Friday night, and we talk for 15 minutes, just normal chatter, on Saturday morning, whenever it was, for a little bit, and he goes, "Oh yeah, I had a phone call with that Tyler that they've got on the radio the other day. So it's my first radio interview ever. So I'll be on." So in the tailgate show pregame, there was it was probably 15-minute interview with my dad.
Oh,
that was cool. Pretty cool. That was fun. And we were in the car driving to a youth hockey game too. So the kids got to hear it. The younger 2 got to hear it. Aspen didn't, but that was awesome.
Cool.
I was really proud of that.
He's still the interception leader, right?
Yeah, still. Oh, I'm going to brag about that forever. He's still career and single season interception record. This was in the early 70s. They probably passed the ball a quarter as much as they do now. They play way less games then. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I believe that's available online to listen to after the fact too. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's like a podcast form.
Oh, I'm going to find that and tweet it. Cool.
Yeah, maybe it'll be one of the featured, the JSP, weekly podcasts or daily podcasts.
Yeah. It comes
out. They do such a good job with that stuff now. That's awesome. They have it.
Yeah, right. And I had mentioned that too, right? We put out 6 hours of podcast last week. Jackrabbit Sports Properties put out 7 hours, the whole game replay being a big chunk of it. But the hair raisers, nobody's listening anyways, didn't get published this week for some reason, which is unfortunate because that's a good listen.
Yeah, look at fun.
There are so many good podcasts right now to listen to about Jackrabbits that you can just laugh. You can learn a little bit. You can, grow your fandom.
We got our basketball podcast ramping up too. Those guys put out a pod too. So,
yep.
I'm trying to come up with a good game week pace to kind of get myself into it, because I don't necessarily listen to everything as it comes out. Honestly, even when I was missing this pod when I was at work, missing the B team, I didn't watch live necessarily or listen right afterwards. I tried to like space it out towards the end leading up to games.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, there's a lot of stuff.
Yeah. Yep. Oh man, the B team. Uh-oh. So
gotta watch out
Brandon,
for that B team mafia.
when is your super whack off or whatever the show is called for next week?
Jack off, whack off.
Jack off, whack off.
I am. Don't quote me. Don't.
Oh,
put
this
that
is
on
getting
me.
cut up into a clip and getting put on repeat. You know this.
Yeah. Oh gosh. Welcome, Brandon. I gave you a cold shoulder last week when you dropped in. So never too much Jack Out podcast. All right. Are we done talking about this game? Should we do game balls and just talk about playoffs?
We can.
Is there anything else?
I mean, it was.
Let's talk a little bit about the fact that maybe we can get it through game balls, but the fact that Mark was running again.
Yes.
I want to
That
touch
was
on that.
honestly. I don't want to draw it out. I know you've got a
can
plan
talk.
here, Podfather, but yes, that's worth calling out. I may or may not have. We talk about not questioning play calling. I might have yelled at the radio a few times on
Because he was
clear
playing
designed
in the fourth
runs.
quarter.
Yeah, I'm glad that worked. Stop it.
Yeah. So Mark took those hits right away, right? And looked a little bit uncomfortable after that in the pocket. And then when they were throwing the deep shots, they were also incorporating some designed quarterback runs. And Mark just loves football. You can tell that. He loves to actually deliver the hits, not necessarily take them. And I think that woke him up. And he talked about that in the post-game interview as well, that maybe just getting out there, getting some confidence, getting the ball rolling that way helped him as a passer. Because, man, he was lights out after that.
Yep.
He still finished the game, 20 of 28? Phenomenal. Almost 300 yards passing, touchdown, quite a few rushing yards.
Yeah, statistically posted a great game yet again. And that calls back to that spring season again. And I couldn't quote specifics, games or anything, but all season there was that feeling of go out, he run the ball a couple times, take a couple licks, and then that's when he's just laser focused, dialed in. And that just feels like his game. You can tell that's when he's really into it. He feels like he's in control.
Just needs to get popped to get them juices flowing.
That is a legitimate thing, no matter what, whether you're a freshman, you're on kickoff or something. Just when that first hit, then it's like, all right, I'm playing now. Let's go.
You know what? I would love for him to be delivering the hit, though, and not Zeke Vanderburg delivering the hit.
And the whole crowd collectively goes, "Oh,
yeah,
you hear it on the broadcast." It's like,
well, we're not seeing that guy again, thank goodness. But there's a lot of dogs in the playoffs.
Yeah. What else? I thought Jaden Yankee, coming back from the drop, coming back from the fumbled punt, just the mental strength of this team is just phenomenal. Chris Crock, man alive. I don't know what he's getting paid, but I don't think it's enough. Like, this guy just has our dude so dialed in and ready to bounce back. So,
it is to struggle the way that I don't call it struggle because they didn't give up any yards, but that was a frustrating start to a game. And as a fan, didn't question for a second. I'm like, that's coming, whatever, And I know years past, nothing against anybody else, but you start to get really anxious. Like, oh no, how are we going to fix this? What's going to happen? And just absolutely no question. I'm like, okay, we're going to turn it on. We're going to fix it. It's coming, and it does.
Yep.
And I'm so happy. We've talked about this quite a few weeks, but the different ways that this team has won games and the adversity, and it hasn't been a fast start, and they don't have to go up 2 touchdowns to cruise. They can struggle. They can start slow. They can be tied at halftime. They can be down. It doesn't matter. They're going to figure it out because they're freaking good.
Yep.
And I don't think it can be understated the effect the mental coaches had, just because of, it shows, right? It just shows. They're just like unfazed, our special teams are a mess. Okay, fine. We'll just make up for it in other areas. If one area is lacking, we make up for it elsewhere. It's like Dallas was pointing out. So,
Yep. And I suppose we do have to talk about the elephant in the room that I unleashed this morning.
Matt, what did you do?
The attendance comment, the attendance rave. The crowd that was there was phenomenal. I love the smaller crowds because I mean it's the fans that are engaged, that want to make noise, that know when to make noise for the most part, and they make plenty of noise. So I had a rant about just the smaller crowd, 8,000 some people, being senior day, being a very successful class. I just feel like I want to give this team more. These seniors more. I mean, this group that we were honoring for senior day was just terrific. And I get it. Life happens. You know, we have a lot of folks, a lot of fans that are involved in the agricultural community. It was a bad weather week in South Dakota, a lot of ice that made it hard just to get your animals fed, your machinery up and running, all that stuff. Weddings happen, medical emergencies happen. I get it. Like all that stuff happens. My issue is with the folks that chose to go sit at, I don't even want to name anyone, at establishments in Brookings and watch the game on TVs and have their beers there versus being in the stadium supporting the players. Because I've heard now from multiple folks that went to multiple restaurants looking for a table that they were full. One of our friends, Scott Wagner, that runs a popular account on Twitter, he said he knows for a fact there were people that went to pregame at Cubbies with the intentions of going to the game. They already had their tickets secured, and they just chose not to leave Cubbies. They stayed there and watched the game. Like, that's what bothers me. Like, those folks, come on out to the stadium, come honor these seniors. Again, and my comment in Rants and Raves was supposed to be kind of funny. You know, we're supposed to be these tough folks from the Great Plains that don't mind winter. I responded back on Twitter that we're descendants of Vikings and we're wasting our genetic potential by not being tougher and being on the outdoors. But it comes from a place of caring about the team. So that's all.
Brandon Owens wants to know how cold it was yesterday. I think it was
25 at kickoff, right? Yeah.
25 at kickoff.
With some wind. So
in South Dakota, that's not that cold, and the wind wasn't that harsh. So yeah, it really wasn't that terrible. If you dressed properly, you weren't even cold.
Yeah.
No, Matt, I got your back, and it was not. Yeah, that was a fair way to put that. And I'll back that up as, again, somebody that wasn't there, but I was at an outdoor sporting event anyway. I was just at a different one.
Yep.
I mean, family obligations happen. Like
exactly.
Matt said.
That's
So there are valid excuses, but if you didn't come because it was cold, you're a pussy.
I was outside in the cold, full Jackrabbit garb at a cross country meet. So
there we go. All right. Anything else from the game? I feel like we've hit the high points of the game.
Yeah, I think so. Just, man, that was good to watch them come back and just take care of a team that we should have taken care of. No disrespect to them.
Yep.
We should have won that one handily, and we did, and that was awesome. You know, got to see a little more of Amar. You got to see Angel at the end.
Mm-hmm. Oh, he was so close to breaking one, too, or breaking two of them. Yep. Man, I want to see him in the open field and just putting distance between him and a cornerback or safety trying to catch him. I can't wait to see that when that actually happens.
I did bring some old fashions too yesterday's game. In fact,
Jordan Finks. Yeah, go ahead, Jen.
Jordan Finks says just have me make you a couple old fashions before the game, and you'll be sweating throughout the game. Well, maybe I make good ones. That's the word on the street. So,
yep. All right, let's do some game balls here. Presented by Dakota Iron Equipment. So if you watched the Midco broadcast, I'm sure you saw that Dakota Iron is a sponsor for them as well. On the north end of the tailgating, the backyard, if you're going on the east side of the softball stadium, you see John's trailer there. Talked to him a little bit, and yeah, he said if there's folks out there that need equipment for snow removal this winter, get a hold of him now, and he'll start looking for whatever it is that you need for your specific project. So thanks, John, with Dakota Iron Equipment. In Sioux Falls, look them up and they'll help you find what you need. So thanks again. All right. So last week, let's go through this here. So our predictions were Tucker Kraft. That was you, Chad. I had Isaiah Davis. In Dallas, you had Mason McCormick, which could be.
I mean, Tucker Kraft had a really cool jet sweep.
Yep.
Just saying.
Yep.
Nobody does that. Nobody does that with their tight ends, but we do.
No, and about two. So I watched a third of the game, listened to 2/3 of it, and Tyler kept calling him the A10 Warthog over and over and over. So yeah,
That's a great.
so I think his call was with the Warthog with the sweep or something like that. God, I hope that nickname sticks.
That's awesome. Oh man,
The big guns.
In the blog, I went with Jaden. I thought his deep passes, his deep catches or whatever really opened up the offense. And once we started doing that, everything else really opened up. So
we're going with O game balls then? Officially?
Right now, yep.
Okay. What do you got, Dallas?
You see, same. I honestly, I'm no suspense here. I'm following Matt on everything.
Well,
Jaden had a solid game, very impactful. That was awesome.
Just to be the contrarian, a guy can't catch the balls if a guy's not throwing it. And the guy throwing it, even though he had a couple rough patches, made at least one questionable decision. I'm sure that's fair to him. Maybe held on to that ball a little too long before he threw it and then got that pick. He'd love to have that one back, I'm sure. I'm going to go with Mark because, his runs really kind of open things up, I think. So.
Oh, it did for sure. Didn't kind of. It absolutely did.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. All right. Defensively, Chad picked Jason Freeman. I had Cade Trevere. In Dallas, you had Stallbird.
Yep.
I think all three of those are good picks. Those were good picks. They all had good games. They all had impactful plays.
Yeah.
So
they did, but that's not who I'm going to pick for my game ball.
All right. Who are you going with?
I'm going with Savion, man. It brings me great joy to see that guy balling out like he is. You have no idea that guy's not a game one starter. Nope. So kudos to that guy. He's been one of my favorite men on the field when he's out there, and when he's not out there, I guess. But just great to see him to get a chance to shine and take full advantage of that.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, spot on. He was my 1B. He was my pick coming out of just listening and watching what I did. Then I looked at the stat line and it's pretty tough not to go with Freeman. But yeah, Savion had he had some solid plays, but he impacted a lot of plays. He was around forcing the ball, dude was flying around and just made the most of what he had. Stig called him out specifically in the press conference as someone that waited 5 frickin' years to have his number called. And you would never guess that is not a week in, week out starter out there. Good job, young man.
Agreed. Yeah, and that's cool because he was, a fairly hyped prospect. He came in as a safety and didn't stop growing. And, Jimmy took him and stuff. We joked about all season. But man, I'm just happy for that kid. I did go with Jason Freeman. He filled up the stat line. Just what an addition. What an addition to this team. We've talked about him a ton.
Thanks for bringing that guy on, Daishan, right?
Yeah, right. Good job, Daishan. Yeah, game ball for you.
You're bringing extra things to our team that are intangibles.
Yeah, I was going to say those are those intangibles we talk about. God, and again, another guy that multiple coaches have said, we didn't plan on him starting games. And nothing against his talent. He's super talented, but to jump in, and he's talked about in his interview that he did with Midco how complicated the defense is compared to what he was used to and just getting up to speed with these guys that have been around it for years. And dang, what a good football player.
Yeah. Yeah. And we all did pretty good on scores, guys. So Chad, you were 38-17. I was 27-10, Dallas 27-14. So not bad. Not bad. I'd say I was the closest, but whatever.
Sure. I was a little gracious, but you don't want to say, these guys are only going to score 7,
I don't know.
I wouldn't have guessed.
And that took. They shouldn't have given up. That should have been a shutout.
Yeah. Coach talked about that on his post game too, and the guy who did it come up and apologized. He felt terrible because he went inside when that was his guy to block.
Yeah, that was pretty clear. He punched in, committed, and just couldn't get back out to it.
Yep. All right. So I know this is something the B team usually does, but this is where we're gonna tread into looking around the valley at some of the other games right now, and look at games from this past week as well as look ahead and what it may mean for the Valley playoff picture. As we've said before, we're indifferent if the Valley gets 4 teams, 5 teams, 2 teams. It really doesn't matter. It's just kind of something fun to talk about. So that's where we're going to be talking about right now. So in other action, North Dakota took care of South Dakota up there in the Laris Center, 28-19. This is kind of funny. So on the USD fan forum this week, I was just reading.
You went over there?
I went over there. It's funny. It's humorous. It's humorous. Yeah. So
that sounds like the worst way you could possibly spend your time.
No.
What are you doing?
Just let me tell this story.
Fine.
So there's a thread in there about the playoffs, and I was reading someone saying, you know what? If USD wins these last 2 games, they're going to be 6-5, and with one of the toughest schedules and ending on a 2-game winning streak. How can you not take them into the playoffs? 3-game
pretty easy because of math.
Yeah.
They teach that at South Dakota State.
But it was a serious comment, and
I know.
And some of the UND fans came on because that's who they're playing this week, and we're like, "Are you guys stupid or what's wrong with you?" There's no way you're getting in the playoffs. Your season's over.
Works?
Deal with it.
Did you eat paint chips as a kid? Yeah, why? Tommy boy.
Anyways, so sorry. So that's my USD story. But they're out. UND, huge matchup coming up this week. We'll talk about that in a second. Indiana State get their first Valley win of the season, 21-0 over Western Illinois.
Trees.
Yeah, good job, Trees.
Way to go, Trees.
Yeah, so I see Western Illinois' big stud wide receiver Brantley must have got hurt, though, because he tweeted some sort of injury. I'll be back, coming back stronger type of deal. So that's too bad. He's a heck of a player. After that, Youngstown State really probably slammed the playoff door. Yeah, they're out now, I think.
They did. And I thought when we started talking about potential playoff teams, they didn't come up. And I was going to make a big case for them making the playoffs, just sneaky out of nowhere, because, we don't play them. Nobody was talking about them. And then, they just completely bleeped the bed, and that was it. Yeah,
so they lose to Missouri State 25-22 down in Plaster. And just honestly, Jason Shelley finally looked good again. Well, kind of good. He was 19 for 37, 221 yards and a touchdown. So Jaleel McLaughlin, though, went off again, 28 carries, 227 yards and a TD. And is he now the career rushing leader in NCAA? Like there was something like that he was knocking on the door.
What?
Let me Google that real quick.
So
no kidding.
He was just an insane player at Division III, Notre Dame, before he moved to Youngstown and just put up a bajillion yards in back-to-back seasons there. And then since he got to Youngstown, he's put up over 1,200 every season. So, yeah, he's there's some record that he's approaching, Jaleel McLaughlin.
Yeah, I'm out here, right? Just give me a second.
We'll tap dance here for a minute. So beyond that, do we play them next year?
I think we're off for 3 years, aren't we?
Three whole years?
Yeah, okay, I believe.
3 years.
I'm looking for. I want to make a trip out there. That is that's a stadium in the conference I have not been to. I'd like to get out to Youngstown.
Is that the only one that you haven't been to yet?
No, there's a few, but they're next on my list. I want to hit them.
So our friend Jordan Fink says
on his 65-yard touchdown. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
It says in this article that his 65-yard touchdown which gave them a 22-17 lead. He would tie the all-time rushing mark in NCAA history, and he would later break that record in the game. So that's pretty impressive. We know he's a
ball player.
stud.
I don't care what division that is. That's job.
Yeah, right.
Just think about Marshawn Cockridge. That dude was an absolute animal. So he's got more than that, right? So,
yeah. All right. So the final Valley game of this week was NDSU over Southern Illinois, 21-18, and NDSU came from behind and scored 14 points in the fourth quarter to win that one. And our buddy Matt Frazee was really sweating that game, really saying bad things about NDSU, and then they came back and they won. So. Interesting. That's definitely interesting. So some big injuries in that one. Right tackle Mason Miller for NDSU was out or injured in that game. I forget for sure. And then Hunter Lupke, who's been dealing with a cracked rib, ended with his arm in a sling.
So hear that.
Yeah. So Hunter Lupke suffered some sort of shoulder injury. It sounds like they don't know what it is right now at this point, but he finished the game in street clothes with his arm in a sling. So
that's not good.
that is worth watching.
In general, I wish the program the absolute worst, but you don't want anybody hurt.
Yeah.
That's full strength.
Yep. And especially, that was a big week for him. He just got invited to the Senior Bowl.
Yeah.
So kind of a bummer for him. But
I never said after we played them, I've always joked that anybody could run behind that offensive line that they've had, but that guy's a freight train. Man,
yeah, he's definitely different. I mean,
Yep.
you do get Mike Allstott vibes from him.
You do 100%.
Yep.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Yep.
So the big games next week, this coming week that, we don't have a Jackrabbit game to preview. So let's look ahead a little bit. Southern Illinois and Youngstown are both feeling like they still have a chance. If you listen to their head coaches and stuff, they really think that they have a chance to still make the playoffs at 6 wins. It's a huge bubble. A lot of weird stuff happened this week with teams like Idaho losing that maybe shouldn't have. And so it's going to be really interesting to watch what happens in the SoCon as well. And in the Big Sky, UC Davis could clip Sacramento State and get into the playoffs now too. So a lot of fun to happen.
They're
here.
better than a lot of people gave them credit for.
Yep, definitely. So Southern and Youngstown's a game just to watch. Western and Illinois State really has no effect on the playoffs. It's the Battle of Illinois, I guess. Missouri State, Indiana State doesn't matter. Northern Iowa and South Dakota really doesn't matter. I mean, Northern Iowa could get to 6 wins, but they would have no marquee wins. But the big game to watch is North Dakota at North Dakota State. It's 2:30 on ESPN Plus. North Dakota feels like this may be their chance to finally knock off NDSU in the Division I era here. So that's something to watch. This is our prediction segment for this week presented by Culver's. I'm guessing maybe the only game that may get a 50 Butterburger is Missouri State and Indiana State. And that may actually be both teams scoring 50 points in that one.
Just join the Southland.
Yeah.
Well played.
Right?
Why is it? Why, Brendan? Why is it called the Southland? You won't answer.
He'll put it in there.
He'll put it in there.
You got no D.
Yeah. Yep. So
Or Unix. Sorry.
What?
Did I completely derail this podcast with one comment?
You did. Those are the sort of comments you reserve for Wednesday nights.
Oh my gosh. All right.
There we go. There, Brendan.
So let's talk about North Dakota State. We've seen both these teams. Both teams, it was a great game versus the Jacks. Both teams had 14-point leads against the Jacks. What are we thinking in that one with North Dakota and North Dakota State? What are we going to look for? What do we think?
I'd take Giant Meteor by 100.
I honestly, it depends. If Lupke's hurt, that changes the game completely.
Immensely.
Yeah, in my eyes.
Yep.
If both teams are equally healthy, I guess Furry Cows by probably a touchdown.
Sure. Yeah.
I haven't looked at them enough to know how much just kind of on average both those teams are putting up, but I mean, you'd think you'd have a 24 to, I don't know, 24-17 kind of game, something like that.
Yeah. I can see that. I mean, NDSU is interesting right now because if they don't have Lupke, they benched Dom Ganella. I'm not sure if you saw this, but Ganella got a stupid personal foul taunting penalty against Western Illinois. He fumbled again. So he's in the doghouse for his fumbles and for his outbursts, it sounds like. So TK Marshall stepped in. The transfer back, he stepped in from SMU to Merrick Williams, Kobe Jones. They've been getting more carries. So it's going to be interesting. UND, I mean, did we run all over them? How did we move the ball? I can't remember right now. That's what concerns me. Did we throw it? Is that where we passed it a bunch?
I think we did. Yeah, we had a lot of we had a lot of tight end stuff going on there.
Oh, yeah.
The good thing for NDSU is they have a quality tight end and an
Yep.
okay quarterback. But I'd
Yep.
say
Joe
that,
Stoffel's a good player. So
yeah, I think
How do we move the ball against which team? North Dakota or North Dakota?
yeah,
State?
UND.
North Dakota.
Yeah.
North Dakota.
UND.
Well,
trying to find that.
I think for UND's as a positive for UND, Schuster is so elusive, can really make plays on the run.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to be tough for NDSU to
NDSU.
defend.
Yep. Yeah, with their young secondary still. I mean, yeah, good point, Chad. I don't know. I'm probably I can't get a bet against the Bison in their building either. UND still hasn't beat them in the Division I era, let alone in the Fargo Dome. So
I get the impression that the NDSU fans don't feel real comfortable with this game.
I agree.
No, but they've been comfortable all year. Looks like, I mean,
That's
did
fair.
they outgain us? Is that this year's game?
They might have outgained us because
They did
we
outgain
got
us.
that onside kick that we returned with our tight end for almost a touchdown. So
Oh yeah, that was the yard.
13. They outgained us.
We had more points than plays in that game. That's right.
Yeah.
That was the more points than plays game.
And we kind of let them back into it at the end of that game. We had that
A little bit.
That's another UC Davis game where everyone's going to argue, well, they almost won at the end. Okay, sure, but they didn't. So what's your point?
To a team that's lost to a bunch of good teams and is probably could make a case for being a top 15 team in the country.
Yeah. Yeah, this is going to be an interesting one. You know what? I'm going to take UND. I'm going to take UND in this one, like 27-24, something like that. So
I think it's more
going to be a close
than
one.
that.
It's going to be fun no matter what, right?
Yeah.
Hmm?
I think it's more points than that, but I like where your head's at. I'll say like 38-31.
Okay.
That's kind of high scoring for NDSU games, but
Yeah.
but they have that potential too. I mean,
There's
Yeah.
they score that many points, something weird's happening. There's a kick return or something for a touchdown. So
Yeah.
what talking like moving into like playoff thoughts a little bit. I mean, do you guys want the Bison to win so that they can potentially that they could wind up being a seed and we could see them in Brookings, 3 weeks into this, or what do you think?
I don't know. That's been the discussion, right? Everyone is asking at tailgate if we're the 1 seed and NDSU's the 4, we'd meet in the semis, right? But if
where
we're
do you
the
wanna see
2
them?
and they're the 4, then we'd be on opposite sides. So, would you rather play them in Brookings or would you rather play them down in Frisco? I'd rather
don't
play them
know.
in Brookings personally,
Brookings.
outdoors. I would, yeah.
The story of beating them in Frisco would be super fun, but practically, I'd rather face them here. I think that's what gets our fans to turn out that late in the season, and that's something I want to talk about when you were kind of ranting about attendance and things. You look back to that game in Bozeman last year, and that damn place was full. Okay, how do we fill our place up to send a team to Frisco, right? And I think that's one way to do it is to bring that team in.
Mm-hmm. So Seth, I think if NDSU loses though, they're going to slide quite a ways. They could slide all the way to being a non-seed, in all honesty,
Correct.
and having to bid
They
and
should
play a
be
first round
seed.
game.
You should be a seed. When you look at and I'm assuming we're going to do some playoff pods next
Oh,
week.
we will. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, and we haven't on-air production or on-air staff meeting here on what we're going to do here next week. But, I mean, you look at just the weirdness of you've got somebody like Samford. What the hell? I mean, they're making a case for being a 4 seed, for God's sake.
they are.
And and Holy Cross and these teams that just came out of nowhere that we don't necessarily always pay attention to.
Yep.
This will be fun.
Yep.
I don't know that they've completely came out of nowhere. They've been good all year, but
No, I'm not saying they're not good. I'm saying from a Missouri Valley homer.
Okay.
Like it isn't someone that we're typically talking about every week, right?
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Outside of getting their quarterback that ended up being awesome.
Yeah. And on
Cheers
this,
to that,
so
man.
Seth came back with, I agree. If NDSU loses, they'll be not seeded, which means they'll be in our pod. Not necessarily. With the 2 likely 1 and 2 seed being Western on the western side of the country, it's going to be interesting with both Sac State and SDSU being out here. In the typical, there's just more teams on the East and in the South. So we'll see.
If you listen to that, what was the pod where they talked to the? I'm going to get this wrong.
It was Sam Herder.
Sam Herder's
Yep.
pod.
It's phenomenal. Yep.
I should post that link here. One of us should post that.
Yep.
That was
I think
so good.
it's already somebody posted it in our comments.
Everybody listening to this, whether it's live or the pod later on, go back and listen to Herder's podcast. Somebody will get this in the comments here on Facebook or YouTube, but interviewed the head of the seating committee. I don't know what it's called.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, but he gave so much insight into how they think and to how this looks. And then he talked about the regionality, and they used to just group everybody together. And then you go back 3 or 4 years when the Valley had 6 teams, 5 for sure, 6, whatever. The entire conference made the playoffs, and we all knocked each other. Half of the conference knocked the other half off in the first round. They went, "Oh, that's dumb."
Yep.
So the Valley's probably only going to have 3. If you think it's more than that, I think that's delusional. But if you've got other conferences that have 4 or even 5, they have to split them up too. So I think that maybe breaks us apart potentially in the bracket.
Agreed. Thank you, Dallas, for bringing up Sam's podcast. That was really good.
Fun. Yeah, I enjoyed the heck out of that.
Yeah, and the link is posted somewhere. Someone just put it in the comments, right?
Yeah, I believe that's what Jordan Fink linked here.
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
Google
awesome.
Sam Herder
Hard to cut and
podcast. Find
paste
him on
that.
Twitter, whatever it is. Very good.
Yep.
Get educated.
Yeah. So some other big games, right? Obviously, in the Big Sky, Montana State was the game. Oh my gosh, College Game Day. Whew. So that's phenomenal.
Guys.
That's awesome. Yeah,
Yep,
well deserved.
Bravo, well deserved.
Good for you. Good for the FCS. We love
It is.
seeing those.
Yep.
And that's another storied rivalry, much like us and the Bison for the Dakota Marker. Only I think it's obviously it's older. So.
Yep. Looking at the games, the matchups as well in the Big Sky, we've already talked about Sac State and UC Davis. That's a huge game as well. Big rivals there. What's the name of that rivalry? I'm sure Ron can tell us. The Freeway or whatever it is.
Yeah.
They call it something special. Yeah.
Yeah, because they're only 20 miles apart.
Yeah. Yep. So we'll see if Ron posts what that's actually called.
I think Davis has got a good shot at knocking them off.
Yeah. The way they played last night against Idaho.
Yeah.
And Idaho's in a must-win game too against Idaho State, which they should take care of. But in-state rivalry games, weird stuff happens.
State still have a team.
They do. Former Jackrabbit Shane Daly plays for them, I believe.
Causeway Classic, that's what it's called.
Causeway Classic. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, Garrett, Rick, Seth,
Yep.
John.
Yeah, man. People listening are the best.
Oh, yeah.
Apparently we don't know that.
So, Brendan brings up FCS Fans Nation playoff selection show is right after this. They're probably starting it right now. So after you get done listening to us, keep DVR in Yellowstone and go watch that, the selection show.
People watch that?
It's going to be great. So, yeah. Anything else to add, guys? We just excited just to sit back and watch some football on Saturday.
Damn.
I'd like to give Hunter Dustman the special teams game ball for me.
Oh, yeah.
So.
Good call. Yep. Thanks, Hunter Dustman. Appreciate it. Good job.
Oh, they're not until 8:30, Brendan says. So.
Oh, not until 8:30. Oh, I thought they were at.
That's why Brandon Owens is hanging out.
Oh, he's still hanging out. All right. Thanks, Brandon.
Thanks for watching, Brendan.
Yeah.
They're right next to each other.
Yeah. Oh, man. Good question. Let's take this one. This is a good question. Something different. Zach Larson says, have you heard of any true freshmen that will step up and make an immediate impact next year that are redshirting this year? Any further along than the coaches thought at this point? With such a good senior class, we have some holes to fill. Yes, we do. You're absolutely right. I have heard great things about all 3 tight ends. So that's a position to watch, but all of them have when I talk to coaches, they get brought up. And so
it's funny you brought that up because I was going to say you're the one that's plugged in, or you talk to the coaches way more than anybody else about X's and O's. And I was going to say that clearly is, we've got just, 3 fantastic ball players, all 3 likely moving on. And yeah, it's something we got to backfill. So yeah, that's great to hear.
Yeah. I mean, David Alpers, a lot of us are familiar with just for his time at O'Gorman. And, he's a basketball standout there, defensive end. So he just has a ton of explosion there. But basketball, he played above the rim quite a bit. So just excited for that athleticism. Grayton Gannon was a former quarterback in Wisconsin, super smart, supposedly just picking up the offense really well, big body. He got offered at NDSU to play linebacker, I believe was where he was offered at there. And then had some D2 offers to play quarterbacks too. So just a tremendous athlete, it sounds like. And then Gormley out of Kansas, right? Probably mispronouncing his name. But he supposedly is just a freak athlete that they're really excited for, and kind of a late bloomer in high school. So yeah, really excited about those three. I think at running back, DJ, Derek Johnson, DJ, is someone to watch as well, that they're excited about his potential. And defensively, got that whole room of linebackers that we've seen a few times this year. Jalen Lee at corner, I think is going to be special. You look at him and he's built different. In his tape from high school, he's just, he is a special player. So those are some players that I'm watching. That linebacker room too is going to be tough to break into with all the experience that they have coming back.
You might have said it, and I don't remember, but who's the Fort Collins guy?
Bryce Johnson.
Okay.
And then the safety was Dante Johnson that wasn't going to redshirt, that was
right.
playing quite a bit, but then he hurt his ankle and now he's redshirting. So
that's
luckily
okay.
that was just 4
Yeah,
games.
Seth Meyer had brought him up in the comments. So
Yep. So, the linebackers, I know that, again, they're just all freak athletes.
Well,
so
I just assume we're going to have a 4-year All-American linebacker. Plug somebody in.
Yeah, Zach Larson, any old lineman, Rudd. Maybe. I mean, Quentin Christensen has spent some time on the 2 deep this year too, because of injuries. So both of those guys, I'm sure, are benefiting from a year in the weight room. Both those two are farm ranch kids. So hard-nosed, hard-working guys. Excited for them for sure.
I was gonna bring that one up. That'll be an off-season talker for sure. You lose, we assume we lose two All-Americans, and we get 3 guys, with injuries, probably 4 guys with a ton of experience back. But I am so tired of talking about lack of depth on the offensive line.
Yeah, right.
Like I don't want 5 great players. We need, 4 great and 4 very good players coming back on the offensive line, or 3 or whatever, right? That you can plug and play and move around. And that's just, I feel, and again, I'm not backing this up with stats, but I feel like the narrative has been that we've lacked depth for quite a few years now, even with the great starting talent.
Yep. Right. Agreed.
I mean, we were pretty good in the spring season, though, weren't we? We had the good rotation of the 605 Hogs at that point. But yeah, we need to really.
I'm speaking from feelings here.
Yeah.
No, that's fine.
Hey,
we need
to talk about emotion, not facts, as the podcast.
Yep.
I was just going to point out that would be a good area to target, much like we've done with the defensive line, to get that kind of rotation, so that we have guys that you can more or less plug and play and keep them fresh.
Yep. Hey, Ron. Yes. So Quentin Christensen was the state heavyweight champ in South Dakota. He's a wrestler. So yeah. Ron brings up another point. CAA has some big games this weekend too. And Brandon Owens nails it on the head there. Yeah. The winner of William and Mary and Richmond gets a seed. Yes. So those two square off. William and Mary is 9-1, Richmond 8-2. Both are 6-1 within the CAA. So that's really for the conference title there.
And I am not ashamed to admit that one, both those two teams out of left field for me. That completely caught me off guard.
Yep. New Hampshire, is 7-3, 6-1 in the CAA, could probably use a win. Rhode Island is 6-4, playing Albany. They could use a win. And Delaware is 7-3, facing Villanova, who's had a bit of a down year after being ranked in the top 10 to start the year. But Delaware is 7-3 and definitely could use a win as well as they enter the playoffs here. So some big matchups there in the CAA as we go through this thing. And the SoCon, again, has some big matchups. Not going to get into that. But definitely a fun week just to be able to sit back and watch some FCS football, some games that really matter for teams that we may encounter here in the playoffs.
Exactly. I was going to bring that up. So this is, we have where our fan base is growing. Everybody's becoming more educated. We're getting used to some of the teams that we're playing over the last, 15 years here. Take some time this week. Use your ESPN Plus subscription. Watch
Or
some
someone
damn
else's.
games. Yeah, exactly. Pay attention to look at the top 20. Watch some games. Learn some things. There's some great football. Some of the broadcasts are terrible. We're used to ours, which are great. There's some garbage out there, but just go have some fun.
Yeah, definitely. Agreed. All right. Thank you for everyone that's tuned in to watch us talk about some things we don't normally talk about. Playoffs are
Like,
coming.
share, subscribe.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, share,
subscribe. Tell a friend. Those things are very, very important. They make a difference. Quick question, Matt. Another on-air staff meeting question. If we put any thought into on our fortnight of improvement here, what the schedule is going to be or what you're putting out? Do you have any ideas?
Yeah. Well, next weekend we can talk about the bracket. I thought we could do a mega pod next weekend.
Oh, yes.
we haven't done one of
should.
those. Yeah.
I'd like to grab, honestly, some of the FCF Fans Nation guys, maybe teams
Sure.
that made the playoffs and stuff, do something too.
Yep.
And,
Kind of like
by
the whack off, jack off.
Yeah, but something that includes us.
Yeah.
They've got their thing. That'll be fun. I just want to be included too.
Yeah. So
I just needed to say that one more time.
we'll figure it out.
Obviously.
Yeah. Let us know.
Train.
Yep. Train's coming through. Yep. There we go. That's time to
call it
go.
a night.
So thanks everyone for tuning in. Great to see so many of you at tailgating yesterday. Really appreciate the support. And with that, go big, go blue, go
Go Jacks.
Jacks.
Jacks.